Wendy and I will be going through our Bible study journey. We hope you'll join us in going through the Bible study journey. What we'll be doing is we'll be going through each part of the Bible, reading through the Bible, and maybe talking through a few things that we've learned as we've gone along, as we've read each section. We do have a couple of study tools that we'll be using in order to help us and guide us through the Bible.
The main book is How to Read the Bible Book by Book. It's written by Gordon D. Fee and Douglas Stuart. And at the beginning of this episode, you will see Jeff has pictured the books, so that will help you. The version of the Bible that we are reading from is the New Living Translation, the NLT of the Holy Bible, and we just mainly want to gain a deeper understanding of the Holy Bible and have a study with you. There is a supplement. It's called How to Read the Bible for All It's Worth. It's written by the same authors. It's a little more wordy. It's not as succinct, and we don't prefer it. But if you want to get it as a supplement to How to Read the Bible Book by Book, then go ahead and get it. We will be reading the guided tour of the Bible by these gentlemen. So if you cannot get a version of it, you won't need it. We'll be structuring this is we'll be reading from How to Read the Bible Book by Book and the corresponding scripture from the Bible, and then we'll discuss it. And we welcome any comments or questions. We'll do our best to answer if you have certain questions, and or we can pose them to anyone who's watching, and other people can comment so that we can have a discussion about it. Okay, starting on page 27 of How to Read the Bible Book by Book, we're going to start at A Walk Through Genesis. This is chapters 1 through 2:3. Although written as prose, there is also a clearly poetic dimension this creational prologue. Part of the poetry is the careful structure of this first week, where day 1 corresponds to day 4, day 2 corresponds to day 5, and day 3 corresponds to day 6. Notice how the two sets of days respond to the earth's being formless and empty. Days 1 through 3 give form to the earth, light, sky, dry land, while days 4 through 6 fill the form with content. Thus, day 1 is light, day 2, sky and seas, day 3, dry land and plant life, day 4, sun, moon, and stars, day 5, sky and sea animals, day 6, land animals eat plant life, and day 7, God rests from his work. Watch for several emphases as you read, some of which are picked up later in the biblical story, that God speaks everything into existence, and they reference Psalms 33:6, John 1 through 3, that God blessed what he created, including the material world, calling it good, that human beings, male and female, are created in God's own image and are given regency over the rest of creation, that God rested on the seventh day and set it aside as holy, thus setting up the pattern of 6 days of work for one of rest. And it also references the book of Exodus 28 through 11, God's great gift of rest to former slaves.
Genesis 1 through 2:3, the account of creation. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. The earth was formless and empty, and darkness covered the deep waters. And the Spirit of God was hovering over the surface of the waters. Then God said, "Let there be light." And there was light. And God saw that the light was good. Then he separated the light from the darkness. God called the light day, and the darkness night. And evening passed, and morning came, marking the first day. Then God said, "Let there be a space between the waters to separate the waters of the heavens and the waters of the earth." And that is what happened. God made this space to separate the waters from the earth from the waters of the heavens. God called this space sky. And evening passed, and morning came, marking the second day. Then God said, "Let the waters beneath the sky flow together into one place, so dry ground may appear." And that's what happened. God called the dry ground land, and the waters seas. And God saw that this was good. Then God said, "Let the land sprout with vegetation, every sort of seed-bearing plant, and trees that grow seeds-bearing fruit. These seeds will then produce the kinds of plants and trees from which they came." And that is what happened. The land produced vegetation, all sorts of seed-bearing plants, and trees with seed-bearing fruit. Their seeds produced plants and trees of the same kind. And God saw that this was good. And evening passed, and morning came, marking the third day. Then God said, "Let lights appear in the sky to separate the day from the night. Let them be the signs that mark the seasons, days, and years. Let these lights in the sky shine down on the earth." And that is what happened. God made two great lights, the larger one to govern the day, and the smaller one to govern the night. He also made stars. God set these lights in the sky to light the earth, to govern the day and the night, and to separate the light from the darkness. And God saw that this was good. And evening passed, and morning came, marking the fourth day. Then God said, "Let the waters swarm with fish and other life. Let the skies be filled with birds of every kind." So God created great sea creatures and every living thing that scurries and swarms in the water, and every sort of bird, each producing offspring of the same kind. And God saw that it was good. Then God blessed them by saying, "Be fruitful and multiply. Let the fish fill the seas, and let the birds multiply on the earth." And evening passed, and morning came, marking the fifth day. Then God said, "Let the earth produce every sort of animal, each producing offspring of the same kind, livestock, small animals that scurry along the ground, and wild animals." And that is what happened. God made all sorts of wild animals, livestock, and small animals, each able to produce offspring of the same kind. And God saw that it was good. Then God said, "Let us make human beings in our image to be like us. They will reign over the fish of the sea, the birds in the land, the livestock, and all the wild animals on the earth, and the small animals that scurry along the ground." So God created human beings in his own image. In the image of God, he created them, male and female, he created them. Then God blessed them and said, "Be fruitful and multiply, fill the earth and govern over it. Reign over the fish of the sea, the birds of the sky, and all the animals that scurry along the ground." Then God said, "Look, I have given you every seed-bearing plant throughout the earth, and all the fruits of the trees for your food. And I have given you every green plant as food for all the wild animals, the birds in the sky, and the small animals that scurry along the ground, and everything that has life." And that is what happened. Then God looked over all that he had made, and he saw that it was very good. And evening passed, and morning came, marking the sixth day. Genesis 2 starts, "So the creation of the heavens and the earth and everything in them was completed. On the seventh day God had finished his work of creation, so he rested from all of this work. And God blessed the second day and declared it holy, because it was the day that he rested from all of his work of creation." So that was the reading of Genesis 1 through 2:3. We're going to go ahead and have a brief discussion about what it was that we read and how we interpret it, or what we feel about it. It's really kind of an open-ended conversation. Like with the comments, if you want to have further discussion, it's the same thing. Just join in the same conversation that we're having. If you have an opinion about what we say, or if there's any corrections, perhaps, let us know. So I think right off the bat, the story of creation, there's a time question there, being it's the 6 days and what that means. Mm-hmm. So I know we've talked about it in the past about, what's the interpretation of time. So when you hear Genesis and talk about those 6 days, what kind of time frame do you really think that is? Is there a stretch of time, or?
I'm not sure. It's to me, you think those are such immense things, that he created the, you know, the sky and the seas on day 2, say. That's a lot of stuff to create in a 24-hour day. You think, is a day in Genesis terms the same as a day that we experience now in modern times? When I think about God's amazing creation of all of living life as we know it and beyond the heavens, it seems immense. So how could that be just in one day? But yet it is clearly stated, each line about each day. The morning came, and then the evening came, and that marked that day, day 2, 3, 4. You know what I mean? After the beginning, from day 1 of creating light. So to me, it seems as though it probably is a 24-hour day. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, and you know, when I've talked about the subject in the past, you know, one of the things that I have a hard time rectifying is between, you know, the millions of years that it appears the Earth has existed with dinosaurs and all these, you know, Mesozoic eras and all those kinds of things, and then the Bible has, you know, this is a day, and the day creation happened in a day. I think the first thing I probably would mention is, and this is really to your point, is, you know, it seems like a lot of work, yet it's God. So he's all powerful. So, you know, as we go through the Bible, we do learn that, you know, God really just, you know, speaks these things to being. Therefore, you know, the amount of work that he did in creating everything was a lot of work, but it was also God. So,
and maybe it is to show his omnipotence. You know what I mean? That he is all-knowing and so powerful, more powerful than anything, that he could create such enormity in the space of a 24-hour day in 6 days, you know, basically a week. To me, it reflects his extreme power besides his enormous creativity, unbelievable, beautiful creativity. When you think about parts of nature you enjoy, animals or gorgeous plants and flowers or incredible mountains and beautiful oceans, but also your loved one's face, their laugh, their sense of humor, all of that happened. You know, he created that into nature and into humans in such a blink of an eye. For us, a day can go by like that. And yet God is so amazingly God that he could do it so easily. But yet he also recognized the need for rest. I don't know, maybe it wore him out because he chose to rest on the 7th day.
And he did say he chose to rest on the 7th day. I mean, he is all powerful, but it doesn't mean he doesn't want to take a day off. So he gives himself the 7th day.
Right.
You're God, you can take a day.
Needs a little downtime there. So.
Yeah. But I did want to jump into the creativity part that you had said.
Yeah.
And while you don't really think of it in terms of creativity, what happens right off the bat in the creation, in those 6 days of creation and the 7th day of rest, is God's plan for everything that humans would need. You know, humans being a physical form, you know, what do humans need? You know, and God planning it, you know, we need sustenance of some sort. We need to exist on something. So God created all of those structures, and they're referenced before infrastructures, you know. So he said, here's the infrastructure that you're going to need, people. You know, you're going to need a place to walk. You're going to need something to drink. You're going to need food. You know, you're going to have all of these things that will exist to support you and your being alive. You know, even though the creation of human is to create man in his image, you know, to create beings that, you know, are both with him and to worship him. But he had to think of everything. And there's a lot of creativity to go,
right.
I'm going to make these human beings and here's what they need.
Yeah. It wasn't just the pretty. Is that what you're saying?
It's not just the pretty, right.
There's a whole design behind it, and it's, that's a whole nother discussion of God's design and his plan. But we're just, going on what the book is talking about so far as, God talking about everything into existence. Oh, and we did want to mention the Bible, the author of Genesis is Moses. That is widely known. And if you're wondering who wrote it, the book of Genesis is written by Moses, but it was divinely imparted to him through God, because God wanted his story to be told for people to fully understand, because obviously in the beginning it wasn't his plan for us to fall away from him. And that will be shown as we read the Bible fuller. But I guess that was just what I was going to say. I wanted to mention that about the author of the book.
Yeah, and I think, really just to wrap up here, as far as maybe a theological conversation, creation is more of a mechanical conversation, really. I mean, it's mechanical. It's here's the basis of everything that follows. Here's the basis of everything that follows, not only in our existence and why we're here today, but also, as you read through the Bible, this has to exist before anything that follows it. Mm-hmm. So I think that's a significant thing to mention. As we wrap up here, I did also want to mention that as I was reading at the end of Genesis 2, I said the second day, but I meant to say the seventh day, so I apologize for that. But
fun reading out loud on camera.
Yeah, I'd say try it sometime.
Sometimes you get a little tongue-tied, but yeah, I think basically this is an enormous amount of information in a very short part of the Bible, which can spark lots of wonderful discussion just about creativity of God, but also we'll get into why God did this, but he saw that it was good. And I think that's the other theme of this part of creation, is that he saw it as good, and it just kind of lays out the groundwork of existence and God's existence, most importantly.